Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon if you're from the part of the world that I am. Welcome to the first of our series of kind of feature deep dives into Wallboard 2.1. Especially welcome if you were able to be part of our sort of more general kind of overview sessions that we've done over the last week, looking at the sort of features sort of at a higher level. The plan is now over the next series of weeks to go into some of the new features in a bit more depth and to help you get the most out of those features that have been added to Wallboard 2.1, which is the biggest release we've done as a platform. So welcome to you all. I guess a few housekeeping messages. If you did miss the overview presentation, I will post a link in the chat to where you can watch that at a later date. I will also post the registration links to the forthcoming other deep dives that we've got coming up. So we've got one coming up on internal data sources. We've got one coming up on AI data sources and web scrapers, and the final one is on MCP. I have to add a little personal apology, which is when I set these up, I set these up as individual events rather than a series of events. So you will have to register for each one, and I can only apologise for that and hope that's not too much of a pain. You can use your Google account to log in. So I will post all those links in the chat. As John goes through this, I'm sure you will have questions. Please do just bung them in the chat. What I will do, rather than taking them as we go along, I will sort of gather them up and then I will present them back to John at the end. We will aim for 45 minutes to be respectful of your time. So without further ado, I am going to kind of step aside and let John tell you all about playlists, layouts, and zones.
Perfect. Thank you, Ian. So hi, everyone. Hopefully you got the chance to watch our last webinar we did on 2.1, our latest release. But if I didn't get the chance to meet you, my name is John Kessinger, and I'm our product manager here at Wallboard. And today, as Ian suggested, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about playlists and how some of the recent changes that we implemented into 2.1, how those affect playlists and ultimately the capabilities of being able to put them into zones, layouts, and so forth. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then that's perfectly okay. We will go ahead and start from the top as far as like what are playlists as it pertains to Wallboard. So playlists are a collection of assets in a timeline. It's where you can set how long your assets play. When we say assets, that could be anything from an image or video that you've uploaded into Wallboard. You can also affect the order in which they appear. So maybe I have some assets that I want to appear first, and then I have others that I want to appear immediately after. And then also when they're scheduled to play. So for example, if you are a restaurant and you have certain menus that you need to display on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can go ahead and schedule those in advance so that they appear only on those days and not when they're not supposed to. But the ultimate goal is that once you've created your playlist, is that these are ultimately assigned to a device. In some cases, you may have it where you have uploaded only a single image or video to display on a device, and it doesn't rotate between anything else. But in most cases, people are building playlists so that there's not just a single asset showing on the display and that it is rotating through multiple types of messaging. This could be anything such as like internal comms, etc. Now, as far as what do we mean by when we say how long something plays, you may hear a couple different ways to phrase this, but typically we're talking about dwell time or the duration that something plays. And basically what that means is how long an asset displays before it moves on to the next. And this works for any type of assets that you've uploaded to Wallboard. So it could be an image, it could be a video, it could even be a slide, which is a little different than an image or a video that you've uploaded. A slide is actually a design that you've created in Wallboard. So a good example is if you have any work anniversaries or employee of the month type slides or information that you want to show on your screens, those change monthly. So maybe it's easier for you to change a design in Wallboard. And then, whoops, sorry, looks like my screen stopped sharing. There we go. So you may have it where, again, it's easier to change something in Wallboard because it has your branding, and you just need to simply change out the names of the people that are having their work anniversaries this month. Also, dynamic timings are supported within playlists. So while, for example, you could say an image needs to play for 15 seconds, but maybe you bring in a video. A video can be any duration. So while you can tell it to also play for just 15 seconds, maybe you want it to play for its actual duration. We support dynamic timing, so it will play for the amount of time it's supposed to. Of course, you can also affect the playback order. So maybe you have a certain order in which you need your assets to play. We have a timeline where you can rearrange that. Um, Also, you can set when things display. So again, I already mentioned a couple different use cases. If you're a restaurant, for example, maybe you have certain menus that maybe show during the week or on certain days, and then different ones that show on the weekends. You may also have, we may not just be talking about specific dates. We also may be talking about time windows. So a good example is a happy hour menu. Maybe your happy hour or your lunch menu is only showing between, let's say, noon and maybe 3 o'clock for your lunch menu. And then there's also more complex scheduling that you can do. Sometimes people need to alternate between having events or information appear on certain dates or date ranges. Think of a sports stadium, for example. Some nights they may have concerts. Other nights they may have um, uh, different sporting events. And the idea is that it's not like every Tuesday they have a concert. It may be completely different depending on the scenario. So this is what we mean by playlist. Again, it's affecting how long something plays, the order it plays, and then when it displays ultimately on the screen. And this is just a preview of what the interface looks like. Now we are going to be doing a live demonstration today, so you'll see exactly how to build a playlist and then also how we put that into what's called a layout, which I'll explain a little bit more here in a moment. But basically, everything over here that you see on the right-hand side, these are each of your assets, as we call them, whether it's a media asset you uploaded or a slide, which is a design in Wallboard that we created. So you can see here that I have 6 different assets. They're all set to play 12 seconds apiece, which would be the dwell time or the duration. And then I could just drag them and change the order if I needed to. Everything to the left here, these are media assets that you've already uploaded into Wallboard. So as you can see, they're just images or PNGs, and I could drag them over here into the right, and then that's what puts them into the playlist. And then over here on the left, these are the different types of assets that you can bring into Wallboard. So we talked about media assets. These are just images or videos that maybe you made outside of Wallboard that you want to upload into the system. There's also slides, which we already mentioned, which are those designs that we've talked about. You'll also see templates, and we'll talk about that. Just know that they're the exact same as slides, but you can basically set that these follow our branding. I want other users in my organization to use these templates because they're pre-approved. And so they're also slides. It's just you have the ability to customize them. And you'll also see playlists here. We won't cover that for now, as I mentioned earlier, but this is when you want to combine multiple playlists together. For example, maybe you want to combine corporate and local content together. And so how are playlists used in most cases? I would say in most cases, playlists are what people are using 80% of the time in our system, just because it's the most basic form of digital signage. Also, some people just feel more comfortable making their designs in an external design software such as Adobe, Canva, etc. However, you do need to combine those assets together, and that's what makes the playlist. So in your very basic example, most time playlists are just a full screen sequence of images and videos. that display on the entire screen. So again, this could be maybe some retail advertisements. It also could be internal comms information, such as maybe photos from an event that your company had recently, or maybe an announcement about open enrollment, for example. And you may also have mixed media as well as branded templates. So you may, as I just mentioned, made an internal comms playlist that has images and videos in it. But you may also want to add some design slides that you created in Wallboard, which would be our slide templates. So a good example of this that I mentioned previously was maybe you have your internal comms announcements, but then you want to pair that with an employee of the month slide that you come into Wallboard every month and update using our what we call our quick editor, which we'll be showing off here momentarily. You can also schedule them in advance. So as we mentioned, maybe you have some retail promotions that are coming up, for example. So if they're your fall retail promotions, probably not the time to play them right now. So we'll want to schedule them in the fall. Additionally, maybe in like a corporate comm setting, you have a guest that's coming into your office at a specific time. You want to say, hey, welcome to our office in the person's company name or their name. And you want that to display only whenever they come into the office so that it's the first thing that they see when they come in. So those are just a couple examples there. You also may even want to prioritize urgent content. So like I just said in that example of you have a VIP guest that is coming in, maybe you don't want any of the other content to play. You only want that specific slide or design to play that welcomes them whenever they come into the door. And then last but not least, we've already covered this, but we may want to combine multiple playlists together. Again, maybe I want to combine corporate content and local content together so that they show alongside each other. So what changed as far as playlists are concerned in 2.1? We have had playlists for some time. It was a new interface that came into our system with the 2.0 release of our software, but now we're on 2.1. So what were the major changes that took place? The biggest change that you'll see is that, like I said, we have an asset in the system called slides. Well, now you can embed playlists inside of slides. So in most cases, people are perfectly fine creating full screen content. So like I said, images and videos that are full screen and rotate amongst each other. However, sometimes people want a more stylized layout, for example. We'll see an example here in a moment. But for example, maybe I want a playlist to appear in a center zone. On the right-hand side, I want the current time, the weather, or even like the forecast to appear. And then maybe at the bottom, I want to see a news feed or some sort of feed that updates dynamically, talking about either news that corresponds with the company or maybe just general world news or what have you. So why do people do layouts? Well, it's just a good way to keep one dynamic zone that people keep updated, but everything around it is stylized and is branded exactly towards your organization. What's the benefit of that is, well, it's I would say it's less difficult for people to get creative and maybe get away from the company's branding. So if your brand is really important to you as a company, then maybe this is something that you want to do as far as creating a layout and then creating zones where your playlists go. And so the idea again is that these are accompanied by dynamic information, like I said, a scrolling ticker, weather information, the time. As you know, in Wallboard, we have a designer that has a lot of different dynamic widgets in it. So the world is really your oyster as far as what sort of dynamic information you want to accompany your playlists in the layouts that you create. So let's go ahead and move on. And let's just see a quick example. Now, if you did attend our first webinar, this video might look a little familiar, but hopefully this makes sense here. So in the center, these are assets you've already uploaded into Wallboard. You can see that I'm adding them to my timeline. And you can see they're all set to play for 12 seconds. And then we need to create a zone. So as you can see, I have a nice layout here. I'm dragging in what we call our playlist widget, which we added in 2.1. And then once you have that zone created, you then have your playlist show in that zone. So in the very center, you'll see that everything else around it is dynamic. there's actually two zones in this example, one in the center, one on the right. But whatever is seen as in the center was in that playlist that we just saw previously. So just note that in this particular example, it is staying on this layout. So whenever you look on the screen, it's always going to look like it's in this layout. But as far as what's in those zones and at the bottom, that is what's going to update dynamically. So let me go ahead and close out of this. And now we're going to actually get into the demo portion. So before I get into creating a layout, we did talk about playlists, and I think it's best that I show an example of a playlist we already have set up, and then we'll create one from scratch once we have a better idea of how the system works. So as you can see, I'm here in Wallboard, and I'm actually going to click into Contents, and then I'm going to click into one of my playlists that I've already created. And that takes me into this interface. Now, in this hypothetical scenario, this is, let's say, an internal comms playlist for our New York office. Like I said, hypothetical. And so everything over here on the right are the different assets that you've assigned to your playlist. We call this the timeline. Up here at the top, this is actually a slide. You can see if I hover over it, it says what it is. And then it has the name of the slide that corresponds with it in our Wallboard portal. And then these down here, these are different assets that we've already uploaded. So as you can see here in the center, these are actually all the assets we've already uploaded into Wallboard. And for example, if I wanted to add a new one, I could just simply click on it and then drag it into the playlist. I could also change the order. So if I wanted to drag it up to the top and have this image appear first amongst the others, I could. I could also even delete a asset from appearing. Now, we've covered what the timeline is. We've covered that these are assets that you've already uploaded. However, what do we see all the way over here on the left? Over here on the left, these are the different type of assets that you can bring into Wallboard. So media, this is simply just media you've uploaded into Wallboard. If you ever want to upload new assets, it's as simple as clicking on this plus icon, add file, and then if you click here, it will allow you to upload assets from your PC. You'll also see slides and templates. So let's just quickly talk about those. Slides are basically slides that you've already created in Wallboard. Now, templates are also slides, but the idea is that the slides have been set up by corporate so that all of the users in the organization have access to these templates, and they're almost like pre-approved designs that employees can use whenever contributing to their playlist. Again, the idea is to keep corporate branding clean and tidy, and that it doesn't steer away from what the company wants. And so that's what we're seeing here. Just like with the media assets that we uploaded, I could also drag a slide template from the template section, and now it's a part of my playlist. Now, the other thing, or the last thing that I will mention is once we have our playlist together here, you can also preview it. So the idea is that you don't have to save your changes and then see what it looks like on a screen. I can actually preview everything from my browser. So I'm just going to go ahead and click here on the play button. And that's exactly what we'll see here. So as you'll see, it will play this for about 12 seconds, just a nice welcome message that people see whenever they walk into the office. It will then show the weather. Now, this updates dynamically. So don't think of slide templates as just a static design that you can update. For example, employee anniversaries, which would update every month. But in this case, the weather will update anytime the weather changes, because in that case, it was showing the current weather. Same with a forecast or anything like that. Wallboard actually does a really good job at bringing in and displaying dynamic content. And as you can see, it's also showing the images that we also had added into the timeline. And there's the last one. So let's go ahead and create our own playlist now that we understand exactly how the interface is laid out. So let me go ahead and get out of here. I'm going to discard my changes because I don't want to save those. And now what we're going to do is at the top of the contents menu, you're actually going to see this plus button here. You can click create playlist, and this is going to allow you to create a new playlist. Now, there are different preset resolutions that you can use for your playlist. In most cases, 1920 by 1080 is going to be a standard landscape resolution. But if you were working in portrait, you could also select 1080 by 1920. In my case, I'm just going to select landscape, and now I'm going to assign a name for my playlist. I'll make this internal comms Dallas because that's where I'm from. So we'll click create and open. All right. So now that we have that set up, what we'll want to do is start adding our media assets like we saw within our previous timeline. But in this case, they're going to be Dallas instead of New York themed. So as I mentioned earlier, you'll want to be selected on media here. And also one point to note, you may see that we have this tree over here to the left. Basically what this is here for is it's just easier for you to navigate and view all of your assets. For example, if we were a retail store and I wanted to view all of my retail promotions, I could simply click on the retail folder and that would navigate me immediately to that folder. Uh, for some people, this is just an easier way to navigate through folder structures because the more folders you add, the sometimes harder it is to navigate. Um, this is, a lot of people are familiar with this sort of structure, especially since it's very prominent in our operating systems that we use today, like Windows or Mac OS, for example. However, I have everything I need here, so we're just going to start bringing in our images. I'm going to drag this skyline photo of Dallas. I'll drag in these images as well. And now we have our assets added. Now I could come in here and I could say and double click on the duration here and say that they need to play for 10 seconds apiece. However, I like 12 seconds. I think that's a fair number. So we're just going to leave it at that. Now what I need to do is I want to mix it up just a little bit. I want to actually add some new templates that we saw previously. So first what I'll do is we're going to go ahead and go to templates, and we're going to see that I have this current weather slide for Dallas. So we're going to go ahead and drag that in here at the top. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm also going to bring in this safety announcement. Now, what it's going to ask me is it is going to ask me if I want to quick edit this slide. This is actually a feature that we had in Wallboard that we introduced in 2.0 that allows you to bring in templates and then just modify certain widgets or aspects that are within the template. The idea is that if you don't allow someone to make any changes to the actual branding of certain assets and you only allow them to simply edit like text or maybe the background image, etc., then it's pretty hard for them to get off the branding of the organization. So in this case, I'm actually going to skip the quick editing here because it already says exactly what I need it to say. But then maybe I want to actually bring in a template that I can quick edit. A good example would be the monthly work anniversaries. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this one in. And now I'll click edit whenever I'm prompted. Now, give it a second here. So what you see on the right, this is the actual template, and you can see it already has some example information in here. And if you're wondering, I'm not, or you're thinking, I'm not very good at designing templates or just designing things in software, period. So is there a way that we can make this a little bit easier? Once we've created this playlist, and and before we create a layout to put this playlist in, I will show you how you can add new templates to your template library so that you don't have to start from scratch. You can actually start from a place just like here and customize it as you see fit. So in this case, we're actually going to say that these work anniversaries are for next month. So we're going to say May's work anniversaries. And I'm going to come down here to the second box. And as you can see, it says name one. So that corresponds with this piece of text right here. I'm just going to put my name. And believe it or not, I am actually having my 6-year anniversary this month at Wallboard. So we'll include that. We'll also add some of my colleagues here. And then Rod's worked here a long time. You know what? We'll say that Rod's worked here 10 years. And last but not least, how could we forget Mr. Robert Simon? And we'll say Robert's been here 12 years. Perfect. So as you can see, I was only able to change the text. However, because of our designer, and I'll even show you the property that you can check to use quick editing, but there's much more than just text fields that can be changed. Like I said, we could change anything from maybe the background that you see here up at the top, the color of the overlay that's on top of the background. I could even change the color of the text, the color of these shapes, the images or the icons that you see here, etc. So it's really a balance between how easy do I want to make things for my end users and allow them to change. And of course, can I do all of that while not making it overly complicated and without making them steer away from the corporate branding? So with that being said, I'm going to click confirm. And before we do any scheduling in the playlist, let's just quickly preview so we can see our hard work has paid off. So let's go ahead and click the preview icon here. As we'll see, this is our weather slide. You can even see that the weather has changed. And that's because this is for Dallas. Here's an announcement that just talks about our cyber awareness training, and it needs to be completed by May 3rd. And there's our work anniversaries. Now, like I said, we do need to schedule this in advance because these are work anniversaries for May and it's April. So we need to schedule that in the future. And then there she is, beautiful Dallas. And so we'll wait to get to this next image here. And unfortunately, there's no prize, but if you can put in the chat where this is in Dallas, that would be fantastic. Very nice to go to see concerts and movies and so forth. All right. So now that we have our timeline set up, let's go ahead and set up the scheduling. So what we'll do is first, I actually mentioned that we need to set our, or sorry, that the safety training actually is due by May 3rd. So that means after May 3rd, we should probably stop showing this. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and hit set scheduling. And what we'll do is we are going to click the end date here. And we're going to go to the next month. And we'll say that the last day it's going to play is May 3rd and click save. Now you'll see that it is scheduled and it is green because it means that this is actively playing now, but it is scheduled to end at some point. We're then going to go into the anniversaries and we're going to click on the quick editor icon, or sorry, not the quick editor icon. We're going to click on set scheduling. And for this one, we actually want it to play next month. So we need to change the start date to May 1st. Oops. And there we go. So now this is going to play for the whole month of May. If I click save, you can now see it's gray, meaning that this is scheduled to play in the future. It's just not going to play right now because, well, it's not May. And so now what I can do is I am going to go ahead and save my changes at this point, and we're going to preview one more time. Now, what I'm trying to show here is that it will show its first two slides just like we saw before, but you're going to notice that it actually never shows the work anniversaries because we scheduled them in the future. So we'll just give it a couple more seconds to show you that it skipped it entirely. So now we're going straight to the photos and we're not playing the anniversaries like we had before. See, it just skipped right over it. All right. So one last thing that I want to mention, and this is going to use quick editing just one more time, but maybe we have a VIP that's coming in the office, and when they walk in, I want them to see that we're welcoming them to our office and that we created something on our signage specifically for them. that means I don't necessarily want there to be a chance where when they first walk in that some of these other assets may show. I want them just to be able to see this welcome message whenever they walk into the office. So what I'll do is, again, within templates here, we're going to go ahead and drag this in at the very top of the timeline, and I'm going to click edit one more time. Now give it a second here, but there it is. There's our template. And now what we'll do is we will say, welcome. We're going to make up a fake company name here, Wing LLC, to Wallboard Dallas. And then this other information is good. I'm not much of a copywriter myself, so we'll leave it at this. But what I do want to change is, you may just be able to barely see it, but there's kind of a generic building here in the background. I actually wanted to show the Dallas skyline that we just saw previously whenever we were previewing everything. So what I can do is click on this background here. We're going to go to my files, and I'm simply just going to select the skyline photo here and confirm. And now you can just barely see it here, so maybe we need to adjust the opacity of the background just a little bit so you can see it. That's a little bit better, so we can see the skyline. And now that we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click confirm. Now, if I just want this to asset to show only, let's say the customer is going to show up tomorrow and they will leave the office at 5 o'clock. Well, let's say I don't want to show anything else until that time. I only want to show this message. So what I'll do is we'll go to schedule just like we did before, but we have to do something a little bit differently here. So the start date's fine. The end date, of course, let's set that to tomorrow. But like I said, we said we wanted it to play until 5 o'clock. So we're going to click on set specific time here. We're going to click on the small clock icon. And we are going to set this to, let's just do 5 p.m. like I mentioned. And there we go. And now we're going to click save. And so as you can see, it's green. It says it's scheduled to play. But there's one problem. With this setup, it's still set to rotate between the other assets. I haven't said that it needs to exclusively play this message at this time. So what I need to do is there's one more setting that I need to change. We're going to click on this gear icon here where it says settings. And this is just on this asset here that I added. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set the playback mode to exclusive. This means it ignores everything else. So go ahead and click confirm. And as you can see, and you'll even see these indicators up here at the top, it's black, indicating that this is exclusively showing right now, and we will show nothing else. So if that is indeed the case, let's test this just to make sure that that's true. I'll go ahead and click on the preview icon, and there it is. That would have been a little embarrassing if that didn't work, but it did. So as you can see, we're able to schedule something, and then of course, say it just needs to show exclusively right now and not rotate to anything else. Now, because we have set up scheduling, it is scheduled to remove itself from the timeline. It won't remove itself, as in it will delete the asset because maybe you want to schedule it for another time. But what it will do is show that it's expired and show a red indicator where we saw the black indicator saying that it was showing exclusively. So as long as you've scheduled it, of course, it will sort of remove itself from the screen whenever you've set that. So in this case, it will just continue to show everything else because there's no longer an exclusive asset that is set to play. All right, so now that we've set this up, I actually am going to remove this exclusive asset because I want everything to display, and we're going to click save. There is one more thing that I do want to mention. If this view does get a little cluttered because you do start adding a lot of assets, you can actually click on this view selector and set it to slim. Sometimes that's a little better for people, especially if you have, like, let's say 20 assets in the timeline. What you can also do is go to timeline, and you can add I think it's about 50 different assets in this timeline, but the idea is that you can drag and change the order in which things play. So if you have just a lot of assets, this is sometimes an easier view for people. I'm just going to go back to the editor view, which is the default, and click save. Okay, So now that we've talked about how to create a playlist, I've also explained how we bring in templates, media assets, even some more advanced functionality, such as saying when things need to play exclusively. I will go ahead and touch on how we add templates to the template library. Now, in this case, there's two things that I need to explain. In most of your portals, you should see this templates folder here. If you do not see this folder, it means that you've probably been a wallboard customer for quite some time. So just know that you need to see this folder with this sort of icon here in order to have templates populate into the playlist section. If you don't see this folder, what you need to do is you're going to click on this plus icon. You're going to click on add folder, and you're going to call it templates, and I'll just call it templates too. And hopefully I can spell, there we go. And you're gonna set, you're gonna click the private template folder. Basically what this means is that you are creating a folder that only your organization can see. So don't get it confused. Whenever you set a template, you're not giving it access to every wallboard customer. It is only specific to you. So just set private template folder here, click save, and then it should have this normal icon or this icon here. Do not get it confused for another. So like, let's say I have a folder called Dallas. Notice how its icon looks different. It doesn't have these little squares in it. That's a quick way to tell if you have the right folder. Of course, it has this icon when you set the private template library option when creating the folder. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this here. And now we're going to click into our templates folder. Now, there's two things that I need to explain here. The first one is you can always move assets or slides that you've created into this folder. So again, if you've been a wallboard customer for some time and you've created slides that you want to add to this folder, you can easily do that. But let's say, again, you don't want to start creating designs from scratch. Let's say you saw a lot of what I showed here today, and you're like, I think these would actually work for us. Well, in that case, let's go ahead and see how you can add templates that we've already created by the wallboard team. What you'll do is you're going to click on this plus icon inside the templates folder. It's important to note. And you're going to select create from template. Now, you're going to see two options here. Now, under private, you may see nothing, especially if you've just created a templates folder. Private is basically, again, your private templates that are specific to your organization. So any templates or slide templates that you've created in that folder, those will automatically appear in this private section. Also, what appears in this private section will also appear in playlists, which we saw previously when we were building one. However, if I click on public, this is going to allow you to see all of our playlists that we've created in Wallboard and have provided from the Wallboard team. Now, what's exciting is this library is going to continue to get larger and larger. We spent a lot of time working on templates behind the scenes, so hopefully within the coming weeks, you will see this library expanded. As you can see, here's our anniversaries template that we saw previously. So I'm just going to select this, and here it is. And I'm going to go ahead and click next. Now you can see that I have my anniversaries template. I'm just going to go ahead and click create, and there it is. Now, if you did want to adjust what widgets are quick editable, I'm just going to show this really quickly because it's not the highlight of this webinar, but it is important to note, especially if you're interested in quick editing. Click into the slide that you just added from a template, and this is going to take you into our designer. This is where you actually can create templates from scratch, or again, customize templates that we've already created. So what do I mean by adjust it to your branding and so forth? A good example is maybe I wanted this to look like wallboard. Well, I could come here, I could click on this shape, and I could say that it needs to be the wallboard red. So I'm just going to type in the wallboard hex code. There it is, and hit select. And I could continue to do that for every single one of these squares. So let me just do that. There we go. All right. As you can see, I'm not the graphic designer at the company, so we are going to leave it at that. But what I do want to do is I do want to limit what people can modify from the quick editing interface that we just saw. Again, the idea is preventing someone from making unwanted edits or changing things like branding. For example, if I click on this shape where we just changed the color, if you look over here on the right-hand side under the widgets tab, because it's our widgets properties that we're affecting, under the main tab, you'll scroll all the way down and you'll see quick edit. Now you see how this is checked? This means that from the quick editing interface, someone can actually edit the color that fills this shape. I want to go ahead and remove that. So I can just click here, here, click on all of these widgets and remove this. And so just a good way to get started or at least get familiar with this, I would suggest adding templates to your template library. And then from there, start coming in, clicking on widgets, removing the quick editing, and then try to get the perfect version of the template that you want people to ultimately be able to edit. You may find that when you go into these templates, there's actually a lot of things that you can already customize just by default. So you may want to limit that. Of course, hit save once you're done, and then that will give you the results that you're looking for. Now, in this case, I'm actually going to leave this template that I just worked on, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this template as well. But actually, before I do that, I do want to show you there is actually an alternative way to quick edit. Let's say you just brought the template in and you just want to quickly make changes. You can right click and go to the quick editor. So if you did want to quick edit a slide through this means, you can. Just note that if you do quick edit a slide like this, it is going to edit the original. If you edit a quick editable template within playlists, it's technically creating a carbon copy and it is not modifying the original. Because, for example, if you're just updating the monthly work anniversaries, you may not want to keep modifying the original every month. You just want to keep your original template. You don't want it to be touched. You just want to create basically a duplicate of that. And so, again, that's just how it works in playlist. So just keep that in mind. All right, so now that we've covered that, let's finally get to the part where we can put it into a layout. So I've already actually created a slide layout here, but all you would have to do to create this is click on the plus icon at the top of contents, and you're going to see create slide. Now I'm going to stick with the 1920 by 1080 resolution here, and you can call this whatever. I would just call it layout or new layout, and then click create and open. Now, when you do that, it is going to take you into a blank canvas. Now, for the sake of this webinar and saving you a little bit more time today, I did already pre-create a layout here, but it is rather basic. As you can see, I have an image here that is, and this is the layers panel. Every widget that you add to the canvas to make the layout, it appears here in the layers panel. And so as you can see this image here, this is the background you see. I also have different widgets for the weather, but we're keeping it rather basic, just showing the city name, the current weather, and a nice icon. And then, of course, the current time, and then the date. But I do have a nice zone here where I can put in our layout. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and come to our widgets panel here, and we want to look for the playlist widget. So what we'll do is we're going to drag that in. I'm going to find it. So as you can see, I wear glasses, so my eyesight is failing me a little bit, but I think that's in the right corner. And then we're just going to drag it. Now try to keep this the same aspect ratio as your playlist. We will try to stretch things as need be, but it's best if you keep it in the same aspect ratio. Once we've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on choose content. And then this is where I can actually select or select the playlist that I want to show in that zone. So in this case, here's my Dallas playlist. We're just going to go ahead and drag that over here to the right. And you'll see it has this dynamic slider. Just leave that enabled. Basically what that means is if you had any slides, like for example, a video or something that's dynamic where it's not set to like a static time, like, okay, play for 12 seconds, it will inherit that dynamic timing. So that's why it's enabled by default. It's best to just keep that checked and then click confirm. Now, once we have this added, it will look like this, but don't worry. If you click play, you will get the results that you want. So as you can see, we have this nice layout here. We're in the center. We're showing that weather forecast or the current weather that we saw previously. Then over here on the right is, again, all the other information that we have to supplement our layout. And so the idea is that rarely should you ever actually have to come into this slide that we're currently in, where we've designed this layout. The idea is that you basically create this once, make it look good, have it fit your branding, and then you embed a playlist, and the playlist is actually what you're changing more frequently. Um, so yeah, so that's the idea. It's a easy way to keep the branding consistent, whether you're using quick editing in the actual templates that you see in the center zone, or you're just trying to keep branding consistent because if nobody can change this layout or mess with it, then it will always stay within the company's branding guidelines and so forth. And so as you will see, it's just going to keep repeating that over and over and over again. Now we're going to add two more things just to sort of run the time out here. Um, let's say we wanted to go into our editor and we wanted to add some more widgets to this layout. How would we do so? Well, first, let's say I want to add a wallboard logo. We're going to see the image widget over here on the left. We're going to drag that in. And I'm going to try to size this as best I can. I think that's good. And then we're going to click on source over here in the properties panel. Now what we'll do is I'm just going to search for a wallboard logo. And we'll choose just one of these. I think this one works. Click confirm. And there it is. There's our wallboard logo. I think that's about the right size. I'll make it just a touch smaller. And there we are. Again, not the designer at the company, so give me just a little bit of slack here. And then what we'll do is I also want to add a scrolling ticker. So we're going to add our scrolling text option here. And I could technically resize this and stretch it so it appears edge to edge here. But if you want to get it precise, just a trick, you can set the width here to 1 of 1, which matches the width of the page. And then I can align it to the left. And then I'll just simply use my arrow keys to move it into the position I want. Now this is moving incredibly fast, so we'll set that to a 3. Very good. And then what do we want to show? Now I could type in actual information that I want to display here, but maybe I just want this information to update dynamically. Now, in most cases, people will use what's called an RSS feed. This could be an RSS feed that you've maybe found for the news, for example, like the world news, your local news, etc. It's pretty common to find RSS feeds online. Um, but I actually have my own RSS feed that I want to use that comes from our LinkedIn. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in here. And we should see that that slowly appears. But maybe I want to change it up just a little bit more. Maybe I want it to match the rest of these fonts. So I'm going to change the font to Poppins. Okay, that looks a little bit better. And okay, bold's a little too aggressive. So let's maybe just slow this down just a touch. And we'll increase the font size just a little bit. I think that's good. So now that we've set all of this, that's all we have to do. I could even go as far and say, whoops, I did not mean to click on our LinkedIn there. What I could also do is I could also set the color to match the background. You can see I just selected the eyedropper tool, and that allowed me to select it. And now that we're done, I'm going to save one more time. It's going to give me this pop-up. I just am going to select no because it's not important for this specific use case, and then click play. And there it is. So now you'll see at the bottom, I have the scrolling ticker coming in with the RSS feed that comes from our LinkedIn. And then in the top right corner, you can also see that we've added our logo. So that's going to be it for this webinar as far as how we create playlists and layouts and playlist zones, let's say, in these layouts. So I hope this was helpful. The whole concept of creating layouts and zones are only going to get easier as time goes on. So this was really just one of the first steps for us, putting playlists within slides. That allows us to make this system much simpler in the future. But first, of course, we wanted to get you familiar with it. So with that being said, we're going to open it up for Q&A. I know I'm kind of towards the edge of time here. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll see what questions there already are.
We we had one, John, which was just around
Okay.
the quick editor option, and asking if that's only available on saved templates, which I think you might have referenced. I think it is.
Yeah. So Dallas, it just depends on what you mean by save templates. I don't know if you noticed, but I tried to answer your question. I did see the chat out of the corner of my eye, so I tried to. Okay, there we go. I tried to talk about quick
I
editing
thought you
uh,
did. I thought you
and
did.
go into a couple more examples. So I'm glad that that answered your question. I will say, if you have any questions, if you are in the U.S., you can contact us at support@wallboard.us. If you are in Europe, you can contact us at support@wallboard.info, like you see here, and we can assist if you have any follow-up questions that we couldn't answer today.
And just before we wrap up, well, firstly wanted to kind of acknowledge you, John, because I know these take a lot of preparation, and although they seem very slick and seamless, and your product knowledge is second to none, I know a huge amount of hard work goes into producing them, and so I think probably speak on behalf of everyone who's on the webinar in thanking you for making it so clear when we are dealing with relatively complex subjects. Even someone of my level of intelligence got it, so I think you did okay there. So the other thing I wanted to just point people in the direction of was the 3 remaining deep dives that we've got. I put the registration links in the chat. There will be an email reminder going out probably later this week, just to kind of give you those links again. Again, apologies, you do have to sign up for them separately, but you can do that with a Google account. So hopefully in the general scheme of life, it's not too much of an onerous thing. And also you will get a recording of this event in your inbox once it's wrapped up, and please do forward that on to colleagues if they weren't able to make it or what have you. And I see we've got a couple of late questions that have sneaked in just in the wire. Can you see those, John? Do you want to pick those up?
So I'll answer the last one, and then I'll get to the other. So how do you know if your server is or is not updated to 2.1? ch- uh, Chances are you are most likely already on 2.1. You are most likely on one of our public servers. A good way to check that would be if you log in at editor.wallboard.us, then you're good to go. You can also come up here, and again, it may say another URL here. You can let us know if that's not the case, but you should be updated to 2.1. So that would be my assumption. But if again this is different, then just let us know, and we'll steer you in the right direction. The other question: does the validity date remove the content from the system now, or does it just remove the content from playing where it's assigned? Let me rephrase that question if you don't mind. So if we go into a playlist, you can see how we have things scheduled here. Like I have this scheduled, it's green, it means it's actively playing now. This one's gray, meaning that it's scheduled, but it's supposed to play in the future. If I were to, let's say, schedule another one of these slides, let's just pick this asset here in this case, and maybe I'm going to set it for that it maybe ended yesterday. If I click save, you'll see that it's expired. So when something reaches the end of its expiration, we do not remove it from the playlist because maybe you made some quick edits to a slide and you don't want us to delete your hard work, right? You want it to stay in the playlist. You can just manually come here and click the remove button or schedule it to appear at a different time. So I think that's what you meant. Hopefully I was able to answer your question. But it will keep your asset in the playlist, but it will show it's expired, and it will prevent it from showing on the display wherever this playlist is assigned.
We had one more, I think, is 2.1 available for premises scenarios as yet? I'm not sure the answer to that.
Yeah, it is, John. We'll get in touch with you. I know exactly who you are, so happy to help. But yeah, it is available on-premise servers.
Okay, I think we're going to reach a point where we're pretty much at time. So thanks to everyone. Thanks again to you, John, and thanks to everyone who's been involved and live in the chat. And we will see you next for, I think it's internal data sources, right? Next is the next one.
Spreadsheets and wallboard. May sound boring, super exciting. So we hope we see you there.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.